I want a woman who can cook. Yeah, I'm still wearing my cool hat, man. My crack hat. The crack, they call it. So let this hat be a sign to you that I am, in fact, a crackhead. Yeah, I like that. At any rate, I want a woman who can cook. Fine. I want a man who can build a house, bare minimum. This is so funny. This is so funny. A lot of women, especially dumb ones, young ones too, read this and they think that makes complete sense. This right here, that's what you call woman logic. Not all women, but most women that I know anyway, or know anything about, or have heard try to make an argument, use logic like this. I want a woman who can cook. Fine, I want a man who can build a house, bare minimum. Ma'am, because you probably never built a house, and there's not a house on this planet that has ever been built by a crew of craftsmen or craftspeople who were exclusively female. Let me simplify that wording. There's not a house or a building on the planet that has ever been built by a crew of exclusively women. Not a house or a building on this planet that has ever been built by nothing but women. Now, there are crews and such who have built homes and buildings who had women on the crew, but they were very definitely supplemented by men, whereas there are many countless buildings and homes and such on this planet that have been built by groups of nothing but men. Why? Because men and women are different. We think different, we understand different, we reason different. We have different foundational, mental, emotional, and psychological processes. So we are bent typically for different roles in civilization. Again, not all, but most. And this right here is what you look at as woman logic, which is why, again, it took men to establish, maintain, and continue to protect civilization. It's just a difference in the masculine and the female mind. Yes, there are people who have an XY chromosome, like myself. They have that Y chromosome. There are people who have the Y chromosome, men, males, who have feminine mindsets. They think like women. And on the other hand, there are people, women, females, XX chromosomes, who think more like men. These people do exist. They are the exceptions. They are not the rule. And I'm just talking about the general rule within society of the situation. So this is why it took men to develop, maintain, and continue to protect civilization. It's because the logic, the foundational understanding, the processes of trying to decipher and discern what is or is not true, or what does or does not have a snowball's chance in hell of being successful, when the woman logic kicks in, doesn't work. Let me explain something to you. I want a woman who can cook. Fine, I want a man who can build a house. Building a house is far and above, exponentially more complicated, more difficult, and requires a higher and more expansive collection of skills and abilities and physical exertion, just physical exertion. They're cooking supper, darling. That is the origin, the genesis of so much conflict between men and women in our culture, and more specifically between husbands and wives in our culture, is that the women see cooking, laundry, vacuuming, dusting, sweeping, mopping the floor, caring for children, so on and so forth. They see that as paramount to that man building a house, or to that man going to an oil refinery and pipe fitting all day, or welding all day, or ship fitting all day, or structural welding all day, or iron working all day. They see these as equal things because they see them both as labor. So an hour worth of cooking supper is the same as an hour worth of bricklaying. And they believe this because they haven't gone out bricklaying. No, ma'am. No, sir. They haven't. It's all cerebral. It's all within their minds of what they think the case is. And since they believe it, and it gives them a positive emotional response, and since so many of their friends, which are going to be primarily women, and the men in their little friend group are going to typically be feminine and feminized men. So since they all agree and it gives them all a positive emotional response, well, then it must be true. See, so they can't measure the intensity of the two different tasks any more than they can typically measure something with a tape measure, which is why you don't have a building on the planet that's been built by nothing but women. It's a problem with measuring and understanding and spatial relational concepts, abstract thought in their minds. They don't do it. No. I want a woman who can cook. Fine. I want a man who can build a house. No. This would be a logically and reasonably balanced statement instead. I want a woman who can cook. Fine. I want a man who can mow the grass. Do you see how much sense that makes? Fine. I want a man who could pressure wash the driveway. I want a man who can change the oil, change a flat tire, wash the car, who can trim the trees and the hedges outside. I want a man who can install a water heater. I want a man who can maybe hang a new door on the front door. I know a man who can replace the alternator. I want a man who can replace the starter on my car. I want a man who can dig a ditch. I want a man who can replace the mailbox that the little teenage bastards in the neighborhood came by and knocked down with a baseball bat last night, calling themselves having fun, little savages. I want a man who knows how to shoot a firearm. I want a man who knows how to physically defend himself and me should we ever get approached by a mugger in the Walmart parking lot. All of those things are equal for the most part. I don't know, physically defending yourself as a mugger, against a mugger, a threat, that may be a little bit higher on the proverbial totem pole than cooking, because unless the woman burns herself or cuts herself or something, she's not under any threat to her physical safety cooking, other than herself, but that food and those knives are not going to just come at her, so that may be a misstatement. I may have got a little caught up in my own little fervor there, but these things are what's equal, ma'am. I want a woman who can cook. Fine, I want a man who can paint a fence. See how that stuff goes together? No. I want a man who can build a house. What would be the correlate to that? What would correlate to it? What would be correlative? I may have just made that word up. Correlative. I don't know. I may have just made that word up. I don't think I've ever heard that word, but it seems like it fits. What would correlate to a man building a house that a woman could do other than building a house? Because history has proven that that's not possible. What would correlate? I want a woman who can birth as many babies as I want. There's just something right there. Yep. I want a woman who's going to get off of all forms of birth control, going to stop aborting my children, sucking them into a sink and having them thrown into an incinerator. I want a woman who will birth as many children as I want to birth. So I will have little human beings to pass on my culture and my legacy to. And I want her to do it happily. I want her to look forward to birthing some more of my babies. Because in the West, in the United States specifically, other Western countries are worse. Many of them are. We are at 1.6 children per woman. You know what that means? That means that women have so prioritized their education and their career and their health and themselves, that they are not having enough children for the Western civilization to be passed on to. Women are literally birth controlling and aborting the Western civilization out of existence. And this is why the West is having to import so many people from the developing world, or what we used to call the third world before everyone got so sensitive. So that's how that meme needs to read, madam. I want a woman who can birth, is willing to happily, excitedly birth as many children as I want. Fine, I want a man who can build a house, bare minimum. Ladies, get out of your own obsession with yourself and your own development and your own journey. And I promise you, set your mind to serving that man's comfort, encouraging that man, being his peace, being his biggest cheerleader, producing as many children as that man wants, conducting a home that gives that man somewhere he looks forward to coming home to. And I promise you, he'll either go learn how to build a house, or he'll go earn enough money through some other means to hire people to build you a house. Because the way it works, traditionally, typically, naturally, is the man builds a house or has it built so that woman can go in there and decorate it and fill it up with children. That's just the way it is. And I'm dang.